they're good, as long as they're third-party tested. And it shouldn't stink like fish. If it stinks like fish, it's oxidized. That means it's polluted or contaminated, so we don't want that. So if you have, a lot of people have the trouble with taking fish oil, that you can't tolerate it, I've burping up fish, it stinks, it's not a good quality supplement. If it's good, it won't taste like fish. So, things that are going to cause systemic toxicity. So this is step 2. We talked about inflammation. The more inflammation we have, the more pain we're going to have, the faster we're going to age. The second one is toxicity. So unfortunately now in our environment, it's really almost impossible to get away from toxins. It's in the air, it's in the food, it's in the ground, it's in the water, it's in beverages, it's in our cosmetics. So another reason why women have more problems than men is because our skin is very good at absorbing things, and the more stuff we put on our skin, the more it's going to absorb into our bodies. So as far as cosmetics and makeup, loaded full of toxins. There are companies out there, I think Arbonne and some other ones that make natural products, but this stuff is loaded full of toxins and it's absorbing right into our bodies. It's neurotoxins, so it's going to cause problems. And of course, drugs and medication. So normally what should happen is we're exposed to a toxin. It goes into the lymph vessels. The lymph is a normal way of detoxifying the body. So there's blood vessels, there's nerves, and then there's other organs, other little channels in there called lymph vessels. So if you get sick, you can feel like the back of your neck, you feel those lymph nodes back there. It's basically how your body's detoxifying and getting problems out of the body. Should go to the lymph. The lymph carries it to the liver detoxifies it, sends it to the colon, gets it out of the body. That's the approach that's supposed to work. Now, if we're toxic, what's going to happen is instead of going this route, it's going to go the opposite way. Our colon will become, our normal exit route becomes toxic, so we can't eliminate toxins through the colon, which backs it up to the liver. Now our liver starts to become toxic, and we're not able to metabolize and remove toxins from the body, which then backs it up into the lymph nodes, so we start to feel pain along the lymph nodes. And so a lot of people with fibromyalgia, if you feel them, you'll find lymph nodes that are tight and swollen along the tight and swollen muscles, and then those chemicals back up into the muscles and create trigger points. So lymph is right underneath the skin, and it's basically abnormal detoxification. So again, we're getting tender points in a bunch of different spots. Oxygen is going to be diminished because we're collecting chemicals in there, and toxins accumulate in the muscles and fat. Interesting thing is, our body's really good, or pretty good at trying to take a toxin and wall it off. And so when we have a toxin, let's say we breathe in some abnormal pollution, we take fat cells and we line the toxin with fat cells. Fat is really good at storing toxins. That's why there's a saying that you shouldn't eat a lot of pork because it's full of toxins. A pig can get bit by a snake and it won't even die because it's so good at absorbing toxins because it's loaded full of fat. It's a safety mechanism for the pig that they can just take the toxin and shove it in the fat. So if we're eating a pig that's loaded full of fat and loaded full of toxins from our toxic environment, we get more toxins from eating pork than from eating some of the other meats. But the same thing happens in our body. If we're being exposed to a lot of toxins, we're going to take and wrap those toxins in fat and store them in the midsection. So if you're having trouble losing weight, sometimes it's too much toxins that are in there, and we have to detox in order to eliminate the fat. If we can get some of those toxins out of there, our body just naturally gets rid of the fat that's storing toxins out.
Can I just ask you about the tender points?
Yep.
Is like one X is 1, the other X is 2, or is like the neck 1, the shoulders 1?
No.
You know
what I mean? Yep, this is 1, this is 1, so you have them on both sides.
Okay, yeah, so it's, but when they count the 11, do they count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like
Yep.
that, or do they count that as one group?
Nope.
Okay.
1, 2,
Okay.
3, 4, yep. And then food allergies is another thing that's going to create toxins that we don't normally think about. So this is a huge one that's really becoming more prevalent in today's society. When we think about 20 years ago, we never really heard about food sensitivities. There might have been 1 or 2 kids that were allergic to peanuts, but they weren't that allergic to peanuts. You could eat peanut butter around them. You didn't have to worry about opening a bag of peanuts and the kid going into anaphylactic shock on the bus. Now, unfortunately, people are extremely allergic to a lot of different things, and here's the reason why. It still comes back to the toxins. So if you look at the last page of your handout, you're going to see another diagram there. This is going to explain how the food toxins things work. There's a connection between your brain, the nerves, and the digestive system. And in the digestive system, normally we have small little openings in the digestive system that allow food that's digested to move into the bloodstream. So the food has to be broken down, specifically the proteins have to be broken down into smaller usable parts called amino acids. That gets absorbed into the bloodstream. Our body uses those, builds joints and skin and thyroid and colon and all the different parts, pancreas of the body, with these different building blocks. Well, what happens when we're under pollution or under some of these damage conditions from poor movement like inactivity or different chemicals that we're putting into our body or whatever, what happens is that the colon starts to get damaged. And so instead of having small little gap junctions, those gap junctions start to get bigger. And now, instead of the protein having to be completely digested and broken down, the whole protein moves into the bloodstream. And what's going to happen then, the blood sees that as a foreign invader. Just like a virus is a protein that the body sees and then attacks it, makes antibodies or war cells to this foreign invader. When now the whole protein moves into the bloodstream, the body sees that protein as, hey, this isn't supposed to be here. This doesn't look like the same building blocks that we've been using, and it starts to form an antibody to that protein. Gluten is one of the most common, it's a protein that's from wheat. It's one of the most common antibodies that's being formed, especially in people with fibromyalgia. So that would be the one thing that if you're going to try to eliminate one thing, that would be one thing to try. You see a lot of people that go to a gluten-free diet that completely eliminate fibromyalgia just by changing that one thing. So dairy is another one that's common. And again, it's not the sugar that's in the dairy, so it's not lactose intolerant. It's the protein that's in the dairy, the casein, that they have a problem with. So, what's that?
What did you say protein was?
The protein is called casein that's in the dairy. Yep. So again, toxins damage the colon. These are the little finger-like parts of the colon called villi. As they get damaged, they get to be rubbed down to like nubs, and we're not absorbing nutrients in the body. We form antibodies, and then the trouble is, as we eat those things like gluten, protein, now we get these antibodies that start forming in the body, and we're going to start to not only attack the gluten molecule, but we're going to start to attack the building blocks that were used to build different parts of our body. So we use some of the amino acids from the gluten to build our joints and our muscles and our like our pancreas or thyroid. Now we're going to start to build antibodies to those parts of our body when we're eating that food that we're sensitive to. Our body starts to attack itself. It's called autoimmune disease, and a lot of it's traced back to food allergies or food sensitivities. So the antibodies now attack us.